Hi, I'm Adrian with Zanzi's Toys, and today I want to talk a bit about the system I've been working on for playsets for 1/18 scale figures. So I've been working on this for a few years, and it's gone through several iterations, and I think I finally got to the point where it's going to work really well, and I'm happy to share it with everybody. So let's talk about the key components. So the goal is to have a set of 3D printable parts that work on small hobby printers, FDM machines, and give you a ever expanding range of playsets you can build, right? And another thing that I'll talk more about in a minute is I want to make sure that it offers very, very high playability. So, if you remember being a kid and getting a playset, there was always like the 2 or 3 things on the back of the box that the playset could do. Like there'd be a trapdoor or some sort of action feature, right? And those were always super cool and the best thing about them, right? So I want to make sure that the system I'm creating offers a wide range of things like that, and I'll have more to say about that in a bit. So what is a system? So there are a few parts to it. So there are wall sections. So here's a wall section. So there are a couple things going on here. So this is the top along here, and you'll see that there's 2 holes there. This is the side. You'll see that there are 4 holes. More on that in a second. And you'll also notice that this is 2 pieces. So there's a couple of reasons for that. One, it makes it easier to print. So you print like that. It rather than printing it all solid, it is both faster and you can get potentially better results by printing like that. And the other nice thing is you can mix and match. So you'll see that this particular set of wall pieces has a cinder block pattern on it. So you can have print one side with cinder blocks and maybe in a gray filament, and another side in maybe a white filament for sheetrock, and you can just snap them together to have whatever you want, right? So this is the fundamental unit I've been using. It's 60 millimeters by 60 millimeters, and so this is a 1 by 1 wall section. But I've also got, you can extend that out, right? So you've got a 2 by 2 wall section. You'll also see that this has a brick pattern. Got a 1 by 2, so 1 by 2, and you can see that this one actually has the brick on one side and is just flat on the other. So this might be an example of how you might make an brick exterior and sheetrock or whatnot interior. So that's the walls, right? So that's one type of piece. Then there are floors. So this is what a 1 by 1 floor looks like. So it's flat and it has these tabs. And those tabs fit into, so here's a wall, right? Remember, we have those holes at the top, right? So these tabs fit into that. And that's how floors and walls go together. So then there's also uprights. So this is what a 2x upright looks like. So what these do is they have tabs that fit into the side of walls, like that. So the reason that there's so many of these is one of the constraints for the system is I wanted to make sure that you could have as many as 4 different walls joining at the same place. So even in our fundamental unit, the 1 by 1 wall, so I'll go back to that, you'll see that there's 4 holes, right? And these upright sections come in 2. This is a 2-tab version. There's also a 1-tab version and up to a 4-tab version. So, and you'll notice that there's a hole, right? So what that's for is use a dowel. So this is just a normal 1/4-inch dowel. And by fitting the uprights to it, you get a lot of stability. So this ends up being a really strong base, and you can kind of turn these around. So here we could have, if we had just a wall, you'd have all the tabs facing the same way, but more commonly, you'd have 2 or more walls meeting. So you have something like this, where one wall snaps into there, and another wall snaps into, snaps into that, like so. Okay, so there's one other piece, and that we've got these little, I'm not sure what to call them, but let's go back to see why you need these. I'm going to go back to this example. So let's say uh, we have our 1x1 wall and a floor. Oh, you'll notice that this has some nice wood panel texture. So I'll snap that in, okay? And then, so we've got, just like we need to be able to have multiple walls joined at one upright, we need to support multiple floors, right? So that's why there's two holes. But if this is going to be the exterior, that's where this comes in. So this snaps in, like so. And now we have tabs sticking up that another wall section can be joined to. There we go. So now we have something like that. So this is all still a little loose because it really gets its structure from having all the parts connected together. So that's basically the system. So there's a little more to it, and that there's a couple things I'm not mentioning here just to provide an overview. But I'm gonna do the baking show kind of thing and switch to something that's already built. So here's an example of a section of a building. So you can see that we've got walls meeting in the center. We have a wall variant with a window that works. So this rises and closes. And if we turn it around, we've got some nice wood flooring too. And so, as I mentioned, I went with a 60 by 60 millimeter fundamental unit because that works fairly well. So there's a bit of a balancing act, and I want to make sure that every part is printable on inexpensive hobby machines. So I'm kind of taking my low bar as the Monoprice Maker Select Mini, and I mean low bar, not that it's a wonderful machine, but it's a very small build area. So a 60 by 60 millimeter part fits very easily on any machine you can buy. So you can print all of the stuff on a $100 to $200 machine, and using inexpensive filament. And if I take, for example, a G.I. Joe, classic 1/18 scale, and we put him next to it, you can see it works out pretty well. So that's pretty good, right? If we put him on in the interior, it also works pretty well. And yeah, I've tested it with some other figures. So here's a Zombie Lab figure, and these are a little bit more on the 4-inch rather than 375, and still, I think works out pretty well. So yeah, so that's how the system works. And yeah, the other thing I wanted to talk about today, though, is I'm working ever closer, getting ever closer to the first set, which is going to be, as you can kind of gather probably from this vertical slice, is a sort of an urban building. So a kind of like a nice older brick building. So that's the first set of pieces we're working on. And it's got everything you need for like maybe an apartment building or a warehouse or what have you, right? So we've got sidewalk pieces, we've got brick walls, cinder block walls, and windows, a few other things. But just to show you guys what else there is. So I mentioned that it's really important to me that all these pieces have as much play value as possible. Because to me, if something just looks good, it's really more of a figurine. And at Zanza's Toys, we make toys. And the difference to me is a figurine just looks like something, whereas a toy actually does something. So there's all sorts of opportunities. So you can see here's a version of the floor with a trap door. So figures can have secret exits and whatnot. We've also got this version of, you might be able to guess what's coming here, but so here's a version of a wall with cinder blocks, and if I push, the cinder blocks can be broken out. So if your figures need to kind of burrow through a basement to get to a bank vault, they can do that. And most recently, what I've added is, so again, here's a 1x1 wall section, right? But if I flip it around, here's a variant where there's a hanging painting. I know it's flat, but and there's no image there, but that's something that you can easily print out just on paper on a regular printer and glue a poster or a painting of some kind. And yeah, you see it's a little loose, right? So what happens if we take the painting off? That's right, there's a wall safe there. So if I take that out and open it up, there's an empty area where figures can hide stuff. And then close it, put the painting back, and that's that. And this, just once again goes with anything. So I've got it with brick. If I wanted to combine it with a cinder block, I could do that too. Yeah, so that hopefully gives you a general idea of how the system works. It's not fully done. There's still I'm still tweaking things to make them easier to print, working on tolerances to get sort of snapping just right, so that it's easy enough to put together, but it has good stability. And I'm also working on a lot of stuff that is just meant to go with the system. So things like mailbox. So this opens there, that opens, and the mail is removable. I also just made a ventilation outlet for decorating roofs. So if you think about like an urban rooftop, there's always vents. So this also spins. And lots more to come. So that's about it. Again, we're starting with an urban brick building, something that might have a storefront at the bottom and apartments on top, built in the first half of the 20th century or thereabouts, or industrial kind of warehouse, that kind of thing. But that's just the start. So once we have that done, there's lots and lots more that we're going to be adding. And yeah, if you'd like to follow along and hear more about it, what we make, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Bye.